James, who's in here now, has talked about, other people have talked about it. His rebounding's fallen off a cliff as of late. Like he's got it. You talked about it earlier, getting on the board, the team getting on the board.
Yeah.
I think Harrison has something to do with that.
Boy, if they can't do it tonight,
oh,
they might not ever be able to do it.
Right. But you compare that to, and I guess the rebounding isn't, it's actually worse technically. But in January, he was 19.1, 3.5 rebounds a night, compared to 3.6 in February. What did he do in December?
That's that's fine. If you're scoring 20 points a game, you can rebound the ball 3 times.
Right. And this may be what you're talking about, or the other scenario you asked. In December, he was 14.1, 5 rebounds a night. He gives you 14 and 5. I probably want that more at 15 or 16 and 5. But if he can give you 16 and 5, I'll take it right now. Deal. We don't even need to open that.
Deal or No Deal is back. Oh, we got to get the theme music for this. Deal or No Deal is back as we welcome in 1320 Kings insider and creator of the Kings Beat, James Ham, here on KIFM West Sacramento 98.5 FM KRXQ HD2 Sacramento, ESPN 1320, always live on the free Odyssey app. Hammer, what do you think? Final 25 games, who outside of De'Aaron and Domas, who is the most important player for the Kings?
Yeah, that's tough. To be honest, I think that like the next 4 guys, right? They have this group of players, Keegan, Harrison, Kevin Huerter, Malik Monk. Like 2 of them have to be really good every single night. Like, so I don't care who it is. They need to have like a revolving door of like, who's going to be great tonight.
As long as it's 2 of them.
Ride the hot hand. And if it's 3 of them, that's fine. They need to hit 3-point shots. I think that might be like the most crucial thing for the stretch run. I mean, clearly the defense has been an issue all season long, and you can't just expect this team to make like crazy strides out of nowhere. But they have to be better on that end. But I don't think there is one specific player like outside of Fox and Domas. It's got to be a collective, because that's kind of, they're all lumped together as far as talent wise at this point.
You don't think they need a solid, for lack of a better, like a solid third, like definitive third guy? Who's the third man?
Yeah, so I think they need a solid third every night, but that can be a different
It could
player.
be anybody. Okay.
Yeah, and then I would even say this. The other thing is they need to not have like the complete meltdown by one of these players. So we had Harrison Barnes early in the season. We had Malik Monk from like December 3rd until like January 20th, where he couldn't hit a shot. We had Kevin Huerter, who's in that funk right now. Keegan Murray has had it like for 4 or 5 game spurts here and there. That needs to go away. The final 25 games, everyone needs to be locked in. Everyone needs to be focused on the final prize. And they need to push forward with this group and like take turns being great.
Maybe this is a different question. Maybe it's the same question. We'll find out.
Dum, dum, dum,
dum. Bum, bum, bum.
Who do you trust to be that guy on a nightly basis? Is there anybody on that, of the others, that you trust? I believe, even if he's not doing it right now, I believe he'll figure it out and give you that extra punch on most nights.
It's Harrison. Like you remember, this is the same discussion we had before the season started, right? Who's going to be the third leading scorer? And I think that like it could have been one of any one of these guys, right? These 4 guys. But Harrison was the odds-on favorite to be that guy because he's been that guy repeatedly throughout his career. And I think he's the guy who's the most capable of showing up each and every night and giving you something consistently. His body knows what it feels like to be that guy every single night. Where I still think that we look at Malik, we look at Kevin, and certainly Keegan, they may want to be that guy, but their bodies might not be ready to be that guy. Like Harrison is a seasoned NBA veteran, 10 years in the league. He knows exactly what it takes to average 18 points a game, 20 points a game, 15 points a game, like whatever it is that he's been asked to do, he knows what it feels like to do that. And so he's the guy that I still think is the one. Like, but does that mean he's the most important? I don't know. Like if Malik Monk can be who Malik Monk was early in the season and who we've seen over the last like 5 games, he can be a huge difference maker. But if Keegan Murray can keep shooting the ball at 45%, he can from 3, he can be a huge difference maker. And then Huerter, if like Huerter can be the guy who shot 50-something% in the first half of the season, you might be able to it's got to be a collective though. Each of these guys have to kick in.
Hammer, what do you think about the travel saga that has gone on all day with the Portland Trailblazers? Of course, we know that Portland's in Sacramento now, and we also know that Dame Lillard's not playing. We know that Jeremy Grant's not playing. In addition to Anthony Simons and Yusuf Nurkic, guys who were already ruled out before this whole travel saga began. But I know you've been following it and tweeting about it all day. Like, what's your opinion on this?
Yeah, I mean, my first opinion is like, doesn't everybody have like the ability to look at their phone and see the weather that's coming? Like, why did they wait until they got to a point where they had to sit on the tarmac for 6 hours and basically burn their players out, and then everyone go home and we'll see you back in the morning? Like, I'm not sure what happened there. Like, that should have been something that, like, it's not like this is a secret. A giant storm was coming. Why didn't you get out before the storm? And then the other thing is, like, look, I've talked to people at the NBA, like, and I know people at the NBA, they make the final decision always, like, on whether a game is canceled or not.
Mm-hmm.
The team, of course, if they can't get off the ground and get to another city, that's one thing, but there isn't going to be some sort of like special treatment given because you show up 3 hours before the game or something. It is what it is. The league sets the standard. And like, we talked to De'Aaron Fox today at practice, at shoot around, and like, is this weird? Is this have you been through this before? And he said, no, he's wrong. Like, this is kind of like what we dealt with the night the pandemic shut the season down. We're all just sitting there waiting for the New Orleans Pelicans to come out of the locker room. They never did. And I'll bring up too, the other situation that I've covered is me and Jerry Reynolds and Jim Kozimor got stuck for, I think it was an hour and 45-minute pregame show because the NBA wouldn't call a game that was in Philadelphia when somebody
condensation
left a door open.
Remember that?
And the AC kicked on and it flooded the floor with like weird
crazy.
I remember that.
We got stuck on the air the whole time, and the NBA wouldn't call the game officially, and we just kept going and going.
Was that the night Boogie was out there with towels?
He was out there with a squeegee,
and him and Matt Barnes were in the locker room with Hennessy.
And then Costa Koufos went out on the court and was slipping around like you can, like, it felt a little bit like when Mark McGuire was on at Candlestick Park the night that the earthquake happened, and they show Mark McGuire like acting like the earthquake just hit, and that's what like Costa was like moving around funny on the court. And actually Costa was one of the players who walked out and said, no, we're not doing this. He's like, this is unsafe and someone's going to get hurt. We're not doing this. I will not play tonight. And luckily, like, enough players stepped up and said, we're not going to play. But the league has to call.
But that's the same thing that happened with the New Orleans game, right? Is the NBA wasn't calling it until the Pelicans were like, we're not playing.
The NBA was in the house. They were there that night because they were worried. It was the last game on the schedule. They had sent someone there. They knew how big the game was. It was a TNT game, right? Or
it was the
ESPN game. Yeah. So it was a big deal. They had a representative on site for that night. And they're part of it. But if a team refuses to play in that situation, you have two choices. Either you can basically say they forfeited, or, we're in this weird situation at that point where like everything is happening like in real time. I mean, that whole night was wild.
Well, the NBA was at fault for that. You had already shut the season down. It was already clear. The season's over. There's the famous Mark Cuban finding out on his, like, oh my God, they shut the season down. And they play this worthless, like, half of basketball with the Dallas Mavericks and somebody else.
Oklahoma.
That was Utah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Utah and Oklahoma City. That's where.
But there was a Dallas game on,
like Detroit or something.
It was on TV.
It was on ESPN. It was
they
caught Mark Cuban finding out, oh my God, the season is canceled on his phone, and he runs over and like shows everyone, and so everyone knows as this game is finishing, that the season's over. There was it should have been clear. If you're watching on it, there's no game after this. It's over. We're not going to Sacramento to watch the Kings and the Pelicans play.
Well, and
it's over.
The game would have happened if it wasn't for the fact that the official had ref the game 2 days earlier,
which is so dumb. That's so
against
dumb.
Utah, where Rudy Gobert was there.
What would they call him? Patient zero.
Patient zero. Well, I again, like
Rudy Gobert.
You want to blame Rudy Gobert, but like in all honesty,
COVID.
Like, well, Rudy Gobert could be the reason that maybe like 100,000 people are still alive because that moment shut down not just the NBA, NCAA followed suit.
Everyone followed.
NHL followed suit,
except the Big East. The Big East tried to truck on for
the Big East, man.
The Big East tried to truck on for another couple
man.
games, and then they were like, I think they quit at halftime.
I think
didn't they stop again? They're like, never mind. This is this is a bad idea.
No,
so Rudy Gobert saved everybody except the Big East.
Yeah, I mean those are like mass spreader events at the initial stage.
Yeah,
like, it was pretty crazy. Like that whole entire buildup. Like I know I had flown up to Portland because the Kings played Portland on Saturday night. I have a buddy who I went to high school with who lives in Portland. I flew up to Portland on Friday. He works in Seattle during the week and flies home for the weekend. So he had just made it home. We went out to dinner with him and his family. So he was in Seattle where like really the outbreak is happening, right?
Yeah.
And so we went out to dinner. Then the next night I was in Portland, 18,000 fans. I flew back the next morning. The Kings had a back-to-back against Toronto. Got off the plane, drove straight to the arena, went straight to the arena for the game. And again, another 15, 16, 17,000 fans being around, plus 2 flights.
James Ham, the original super spreader.
Exactly. Like I got done, I'm like, whoa. Like this is crazy how like you didn't think about it at the time, but as it starts to unfold, it was wild.
Yeah. I remember those 2 games too. They won in Portland. It was like the first win in forever in Portland. It felt like, and they were playing really, really well. Did they play Memphis before that too? In Memphis, I don't remember. But they won in Portland, and then they came back and lost to Toronto, and that was when you did like a live watch or something like that, and the guy in the background. They lost on like a bad inbounds play with like 4 seconds left. And the guy was like, Luke, what are you doing, you idiot?
Oh, that guy.
And the TV camera picked it up.
Yeah.
And the TV camera picked it up. I actually, I had that guy. I've actually had conversations with him in the past before that game. I didn't know it was him. He called me over the next game. Which I guess was a Toronto or whatever. Like he called me over and I went over into the stands. He's like, hey man, that was me on the TV. And I'm like, oh, really? He goes, yeah, that was me. He's like,
Luke,
is there any way you can apologize to Luke Walton for me? And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. He's like, I just lost my mind in the moment. Like I had been hearing it all around me and I just lost my mind. And then he's like, I turn on the TV and it's my voice coming through. And he's like, I feel really, really bad.
Tell him, don't worry. If it wasn't him, Cheryl and Elk Grove would have done it.
They would have to take the sound out, when somebody's cursing and it's just dead silent.
just a weird delay where everything goes silent. Yeah. Cheryl and Elk Grove. Well, the game is happening. It's not delayed, and I don't. We could speculate on where they would have had to have gotten to for the game to be delayed, but none of that matters. We'll get some version of the Portland Trailblazers, and Hammer, our feeling is this puts more pressure on the Kings now.
I don't feel good.
You got a team who's showing up and walking off the plane, getting taped up, going to play basketball, and Dame's not. All of your starters are out.
Yeah.
Unless I'm missing someone, all of your starters are out.
Yeah, Jeremy Grant.
Grant's out. Anthony Simons is out. Dame's out. Yusuf Nurkic is out.
I think they have Cam Reddish as a starter.
Who's the 4th starter? Okay.
Well, I mean, whoever's the 4th starter. I mean, Thibault will play. Cam Reddish will play. What's his Watford?
Thibault, you should have traded for me, game.
Yeah.
Archidiniaco.
See? They should just call Scal. Call Scal. See if he can come out and torch the Kings again like he did I mean, that's the thing. Like,
is Harry still there? Can they get Harry there?
Yeah, I mean, like I've watched that team. The last game of the season in Jaeger's final year, the Kings scored 83 in the first half and lost. And
Yeah.
and the
Yeah,
Blazers
Buddy Hill wanted to take pictures. I remember that.
The Blazers only played 6 players, including Scal and Simons, and like it was crazy.
Didn't Simons have like 37?
Yeah, Scal had a big night too. Yeah, that was brutal. So
He scored all those points in the first half. That's amazing. Oh, that's incredible. We'll come back. We'll relive some more fun memories with James Ham as we
Good
always
COVID
do.
times with James Ham.
New podcast coming to the Odyssey platform.
that's right.
Good COVID times with the original super spreader. We'll come back. James Ham. Matt George joins the party as we'll get
Mac.
a recap. Mac George. We'll get a recap of his trip to his motherland. Hear about how his All-Star weekend went when we return here on Sacramento Sports Leader. We're going commercial free to the top of the hour on ESPN 1320. Mac George.
Is Matt doing a bit today, do we think, or is he going to be normal Matt?
Oh, Jesus, man.
I'm going to go normal Matt only because there's a game. He's got to go to work and like right after we're done. Pure speculation on my part, however.
He's going to show up to the game in a quilt tonight.
A real one would. No real one would.
I mean, the Kings have to worry about like getting out of town tonight. Like they need to, like as soon as the game is over, they need to get out the door and like get on a plane. And
Yeah,
go
I didn't
home.
even think about that.
They've got a game in LA tomorrow. So, and that storm, it's heading this way. It's been snowing at my house all day.
Really?
They need to Uncle B needs to call Drake. Use that OVO jet again.
Yeah, they should be okay.
Has the team ever had to drive to get to where they need to, like before back then, I guess?
I'm sure like someone took a bus once, didn't, or not a bus, a train. Was it
that a lot on the East
DC
Coast.
to New York? Maybe.
Yeah,
I used to do that a lot on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Who did?
Just teams in general. They used to do that a lot on the East Coast.
I remember one time there was a gigantic storm rolling in. I can't remember which city. And Paul Westphal went to Jason Jones and said, "Hey, man, you're not going to get out of here if you don't leave now. Do you want to hop on the team plane with us?" And let Jason jump on the team plane with them, which they have to work out with Sac. Like Sac B had to come up with something. I don't know, some sort of compensation.
Interesting.
I know we were talking to Gary Gerald, which Gary Gerald is he will call his 3,000th Kings game on
Good Lord.
Sunday.
Wow.
Yeah, he's at
I feel like I've celebrated a Gary Gerald monument before.
2,500.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, so we're right there. Yeah, he's at 298, 99 tomorrow, and Sunday will be 3,000.
Oh, it's on the road. It's too bad.
Yeah.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah, he was at practice today.
Good stuff. Yeah, G-Man does not miss games, man. He does not miss games at all.
Raspberry mango lemonade today.
Raspberry mango.
Oh
no. Oh no.
He went
The hell
full
is
elder.
that?
He went elder.
Oh wow.
Oh
Wow. Hold on. There's more. There's more. There it is.
Greetings, my children.
There it is.
That's Elder George.
That's hilarious. Now, Matt, that is hilarious.
Yeah, this is the one. Shut it down.
Oh.
Yeah, this is a walk-off. It's over.
I've reached my final form.
Is that Gandalf or is that Joseph Smith in the picture behind you?
Oh
Which one?
He killed that one.
Leading the way.
It was Gandalf.
This is
Are you sure?
amazing.
Well, depends on which book you read.
Oh,
He
amazing.
did that.
We got to get this interview done quickly, though, because I got to ride my bike to the Golden One Center tonight. So we got to.
I was just gonna say we need the bike in the background.
Hang the bike on the wall.
Oh, man, that is tremendous. That is tremendous.
Hey, I'm watching this game. Oh, look who's in the game. KZ Okpala. Don't see that every day.
What game?
Kings Pacers from earlier this.
Yeah, Casey's out still with a knee issue.
Yeah, he is
Like,
hurt. That's right.
I don't. We haven't really got an update there.
That's right. He is hurt.
Oh, Matthew. I love it. Just
That is funny.
the fact that you were able to get the headphones around the helmet is pretty impressive.
It was an adventure. It took a while.
Amazing.
Oh, man. This is incredible.
Can't wait to go back to my people.
Yeah, I bet. Had some fun out there.
We'll do a many faces of Matt George video at the end of the Kings
Oh,
season.
yeah, absolutely. The
The
many.
many faces of Matt George.
This is it. I'm
No,
enlightened.
This this is the walk off.
Although, all jokes aside, I was stopped 3 different times to ask for certain directions around the arena. It's not a joke. Like, I wish it was. It was not. Kevin John was present for all of them, or at least one of them.
Hold on.
That's true. That's true.
Oh, Matt George did not disappoint. If you're listening on the Odyssey app, if you're listening on 1320 a.m., when you have a moment, head over to the YouTube feed. The good brother, Matt George, did not disappoint. Fresh from his trip to the motherland in Utah, Matt is with us. Matt, I've decided your name should actually be Mac George, given that your buddy who won the slam dunk contest, his name is Matthew. So I think we're just going to call you Mac George from now on.
I'm finding this out live on the air. I actually did not know that. I thought Mac was his first name. Well,
no, his name is Matthew.
For the Mats. Do it for the Mats.
Were you there? Did you see your boy?
Of course I was there. Thank God he saved the night, because we were in doom and gloom land on All-Star Saturday night, sitting up in the media section looking for drinks based off of what happened in the 3-point contest.
What happened in there?
No.
Wasn't happening there.
Y'all forgot where you were.
Call it a day.
We ended up with glasses of milk. That's what we got. We ended up with glasses of milk while we watched Mac put on the show.
Glasses of milk and the good news is what you got in Utah. But overall, how was your trip to All-Star Weekend?
It was a blast, to find out where I truly belong, to meet a bunch of people that, that look like me and are like me. It was a lot of fun. It was cold, but not as cold as I was expecting. And it's an incredible experience. Like, to me, the media side of it was way better than the events. Like, the events themselves were like, okay, whatever. But the media side of it, the access that we had on Friday and Saturday mornings to be able to talk to Keegan and all the rising stars, and the next day talk to all the All-Stars and all the competitors in All-Star Saturday night, just having that access and being around that much star power and being able to talk to them, and not just talk to the Kings representatives, but to talk to, like, I got to talk to Mike Malone and ask him some questions about the Kings and the Beam. Now, this was before his podcast appearance, so maybe it might have been my fault. Maybe I opened that can of worms and brought back those memories for him, which I happily accept. But just to be there and just to go to the University of Utah campus. And to me, the most fun part of the weekend was actually like the All-Star practices. Like, that was the fun. That was where a lot of the energy was. Scott Freshour was helping MC that event. So that was a lot of good energy and really cool, and just see the players mess around a little bit and have some fun. The All-Star events themselves, while it was cool to be the arena, and it was like a milestone thing for me to be in the arena, they sucked. Like, it sucked. Like, you were there, and the pregame was cool, especially All-Star, like Post Malone, who's one of my favorite artists, to hear him, even though the sound and the acoustics in the arena were terrible. To see him and 21 Savage, and then like all the hype and all the build up, and then the game starts and you're just like, okay. And then De'Aaron Fox comes in and touches the ball once, and you're like, okay. Like, it was the events themselves were a little underwhelming, but the weekend in itself was an incredible experience.
Hey, I got to be real. It just needs to be said. Pound for pound, this might have been the worst All-Star weekend of all time.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm happy to do it. Happy to do it, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Whether you were watching, whether you were there, I mean, it just wasn't good.
No, it wasn't.
Tragic.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
At least they're going to Indianapolis next year.
Yeah, things will. We could actually send Matt to Indianapolis too.
My first mission.
When is Matt going to get a good All-Star weekend?
Someone, I just can't. Locked On Jesus Christ coming to a podcast near you, and I can't get over that.
Every Sunday.
Matt, we've got 25 games left. Obviously, how do you feel about tonight's game, by the way, given everything that's gone on with Portland and the fact that Dame is out, Jeremy Grant's out? I mean, the Portland Trailblazers are essentially out of tonight's game against the Portland Trailblazers. What are your feelings headed into tonight's game?
I get all of the wounded Kings fan syndrome of, and I even kind of leaned into it a little bit too. Like, tonight's going to be the Matisse Thybulle you should have traded for me game, where he drops 50 points and makes everybody regret everything on social media. But in all reality, like, all jokes aside, like, there's no excuse, and then there's like absolutely no excuse. And to me, the mindset should be, go in here and wipe the floor with these guys. Like, you don't have to blow them out necessarily, but you're the better team. It's not even close. You have something to play for. They kind of do, but basically don't. Like, every single one of these games matters to you, and all wins count the same, regardless of what quality of roster you're playing or you're taking on. Handle your business. Like, start to finish, Sacramento. There should be no doubt the Kings are lighting the beam tonight, and Sacramento should come in and not take anything for granted and just come in and, I think, reestablish themselves. To me, tonight is an opportunity not to beat the shorthanded Portland Trailblazers like you should. Tonight is an opportunity to send a message to the rest of the teams that you're playing during this race, which is, we belong here. We're going to defend here, especially on our home floor. Like, this is going to be an extremely difficult place to play. We have this fan base behind us that hasn't watched this quality of basketball in nearly 2 decades. Like, get ready. We're coming for you. Like, you put a target on our back. That's fine. We're ready to stand at the top of the mountain and fight you off. Like, tonight is about sending a message to the rest of the Western Conference, and I hope the Kings take the opportunity to send that message.
Yeah, wipe the floor with these guys. Like, run them out of the building. Run them out of the building. They got like 8 guys.
Yeah, I mean, but it's the Sacramento Kings. I mean, how many times do we have to see this where they come into a game against a team that you should, just mop the floor with, and they don't take it serious? So, like, look, this is just another opportunity.
It's not this Kings. Yeah, I think that's the.
Oh no, there's been situations this year.
You're always going to get that, but I mean,
not as bad as this one. Like, this Portland one's pretty bad.
There's some pretty bad ones.
At least Charlotte's starters were there.
Yeah,
but look at Orlando. I mean, we are all saying Orlando coming to town. You should beat them. You lost 2 in a row, 3 in a row. You should beat them. They beat them by like 30.
Yeah, but didn't the Kings lose back-to-back games against teams on 9-game losing streaks? Like, yeah, wasn't that like 3 weeks ago?
No, wasn't that Washington? I thought that was Washington and Charlotte, wasn't it?
Like, wasn't Indiana and New Orleans?
Oh, Indiana, that's right.
Yeah.
Well,
and wait, New Orleans. How many starters were they missing?
Okay, calm. I don't like your tone.
I'm just saying.
New Orleans' streak had ended at least the night before or 2 games before, so they were like.
They were working on a new streak.
One of their last 10.
Yeah.
They had won 1 game in their last 11, or one of their last 10.
Both games are out without De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, this is a moment where the Kings have to like jump on a team early and understand that they have a back-to-back game in LA tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, thump a team, have your starters play 25 minutes, end it quick, leave no doubt, and let some of these guys that want to play and want to show what they can do go out there and play. Like,
James, you need a little more light in your life. I'm going to introduce you to someone. I'll be at your front door in 20 minutes.
Nope.
He said no.
Someone had the tagline earlier. It says, "Locked on Jesus because Jesus stays locked on you."
He'll never leave you.
Matt George with the good word here on ESPN 1320. I'll ask you what I just asked these guys a minute ago, and I'm curious, who's the most, Domas and De'Aaron aside, most important player these final 25 games?
No, I heard you ask this question, and my mind immediately went to where Kenny's went, which was Harrison Barnes. But then I started thinking about it a little bit more. And also, granted, I'm trying to be a little more creative just to bring something different to the table. But I think
I
there's
just want an honest answer, though. Like,
no, but I thought about it more, and my honest answer actually might be Malik Monk. Like, Malik is so important to the second unit. And when the Kings have had their successful winning streaks this season, the second unit has been a major part of that. And Malik has kind of fueled that fire and brought that energy. And we're in the final stretch of a season where there's so much focus and so much pressure. I think Malik brings that element of, hey, loosen up, have fun. Like, let's play fast. Let's play our style of basketball. We know what we are. And we can play our style and force other teams to match us and still be pretty confident in our ability to win games. So Malik brings energy. Malik kind of brings that that lack of seriousness, but in a good way, not in like a negative way, I think, to games. Plus, when he was playing like a sixth man of the year candidate, the Kings were nearly unstoppable with how good that starting lineup is. So if Malik Monk is that sixth man of the year candidate, Malik, for the final 25 games, and the majority of these 25 games, I think the Kings are a lock. I mean, I already think the Kings are I'm very confident in the Kings being a 6th seed. If Malik Monk plays that well, I think they're an absolute lock.
I'm with you. You know, a name that I was just kind of thinking about that, you know, I mean, maybe I'm just wishing upon a star here, but I think we're going to see the best version of him to close out this season. That's Davion Mitchell.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see the best version of Davion Mitchell.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Why?
It's your vibes. Like
I said, vibes. Vibes are important.
Like I said,
that's fine. Vibes
I could be wishing upon a star.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
You know, I got a feeling Davion.
Wasn't it Lattimore?
Yeah, wish upon a star.
And Jane, these guys don't know nothing about that. That's right.
I don't know. They went outside.
You know, like the issue that I have with Davion is kind of the same thing that you have with Chimezie, is that if you look at the minutes for the guys in front of them, like De'Aaron started the season at like a little under 31 and month 1 minutes per game, then 32, then 33, then 35, and he's up to 37 a game. And you can see Mike Brown sort of ramping him up.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know that there's going to be a lot of minutes.
That's fair.
And that's tough.
Yeah.
And that's really tough. So when you get to the playoffs, it's 7-man, maybe 8-man rotation for a lot of teams. And like, he's going to have to fight to get into that conversation. I mean, he's going to play, but like, we're talking, 6 to 8 minutes a game in the playoffs. Like, Fox is going to play. If he's healthy, he's going to play 40 plus minutes. Yeah. And so
that's a good point.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
What do you think about Davion, Matt?
I mean, it's at the point where, and Mike has kind of been here this entire
Your
season.
reaction said a lot. your reaction was like your whole answer.
Yeah, I think Mike Brown has been consistent this season with, we can't wait for you. And if especially right now, the Kings can't wait for Davion to figure it out. They can't wait for Rashawn. They can't wait for Chimezie. They can't. Like, the 7-8 guys that have figured it out. Like, to me, Trey Lyles should be getting the bulk of backup 5 minutes. He's figured out at least how to be somewhat effective, whether it's in the role that he's intended to play or not. He's effective when he's on the floor. Keep Trey Lyles out there. Like, keep your best group of guys out there that are ready right now, because you cannot afford to have anybody lag behind. And I mean, he's been consistent holding like Keegan Murray to that standard, and Keegan has fallen behind at times and caught up at other times. And Keegan's in a little bit different situation because he's a starter, and him just being out there, I think, he knows what he's supposed to do, whereas like Davion and other guys maybe don't. But to me, there are 7-8 guys on this roster that absolutely know what they provide and do it consistently. Even on nights that they struggle, they're still trying to provide the same way. Maybe the shot just isn't falling. Those are your 8. And if you can get nights like tonight, hopefully, where Davion plays a bulk of minutes, or other guys in like the 9, 10, 11, 12 category play a decent amount of minutes because you can get away with that and the starters can rest, I think that's their role for the rest of the season.
That's a kind of a good point. I think you I think all three of you have brought this up, bringing up the second night of a back-to-back. This speaks to something, Kenny, you and I were talking to earlier, is they need to get out to a good start tonight. The sluggish post All-Star break start, like, get out to a good start. Play this game from ahead. Yeah. You have every reason to be ahead in this game. Play this game from ahead and let Mike be able to, throw Terrence out there for extra minutes, or Davion, or Rashawn, whoever the hell you want to throw out there for extra minutes, because you're playing with the lead. Because I don't think Mike's going to feel like he can do that. He can pull De'Aaron or pull Domas or whoever might have the hot hand if this team is constantly trying to catch up or is just trading baskets with a depleted Portland Trailblazers team. Your thought is they're going to run out of gas. It's okay. You're not going to take the chance, though. It's like, if I have to leave De'Aaron and Domas out there, I'm going to. Don't put Mike Brown in that position tonight.
I agree.
Yeah, and Gary Gerald was there today, and he said that he remembers 2 other instances like this where the Kings rolled in. He said one game they showed up at an arena at like 5:30 for a 7:00 start.
My goodness.
The Kings did?
Yeah, the Kings, because of weather. And he said every time, the 2 games that he can remember in his career where they had really bad travel situations and showed up game day, the Kings won. He said that they walked in, even, I mean, we're talking historically, the Kings are not usually that good, especially during, Gary,
spoiler alert,
in his 37 years or 38 years, we're looking at, like, he's seen the playoffs 10 times.
I don't know if any individual has seen more losing basketball than Gary Gerald.
It's a lot. Yeah. He did see some winning, though, and the winning, pushes you through. So, but yeah, the point is that, like, just because you're undermanned, just because you're floating in at the last second, doesn't mean anything. Like, these guys, AAU ball, they know you roll up, you jump out of the car, you go in, you play ball. Wow. So yeah, I think it'll be slightly more competitive. But like, this is also 3 games in 4 nights for the Kings to open the post All-Star. Yeah. Like, they need to have a big win early and let these guys rest.
Yeah, and I think the way you do that, what I would tell them if I was Mike Brown was, hey, just do what you're supposed to do. Just because people are out and, you think this should be a cakewalk, or you think you should, smash these guys, don't do anything extra. The way that you beat them down, the way that you make this a game where, the Keon Ellises of the world are getting in, is by just being solid. Run your stuff. Get a stop.
Play like Dame's out there. Play like Jeremy Grant's out there.
Just be solid. That if you're solid, if you're doing what you're supposed to do on defense, getting stops here and there, turning those stops into easy buckets on the other end, when you're in the half court running your offense, being solid, not turning the ball over, the league's going to get to 25. It's going to get to 25 just by that. But if you're being loose with the basketball, if you're not getting enough stops, you're going to have a situation where it's an 8-point game in the third quarter. Nobody wants that.
One of the angles that I'm really looking at too for the first handful of games here in this second half, quote unquote, I had KD Christensen on Locked On Kings yesterday, and one of the things we talked about was, like, for the last 3 or so weeks before the All-Star break, we saw the Kings 3-point shooting numbers just plummet. And a lot of the reason for that was, it wasn't an excuse, but what people were bringing up was tired legs and fatigue and blah, 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 even though the Kings had played not as many games as others at that point. So at what point do we get concerned if that 3-point shooting struggle continues for this team? Like, if we get 5 games into these final 25 and the Kings are still shooting in the low 30s as a team, now maybe they're still winning games because they found a way to do that, but that's a primary strength of this team. A lot of that falls on Kevin Huerter. A lot of that falls on Malik Monk, who has a low 3-point shooting percentage, and other guys just spacing the floor. But I'm interested to see, was it really just tired legs? Because I still believe this team can win a majority of their games, or at least overcome nights where their 3-point shooting isn't there, and they've proven that, which is exciting. But I think they're going to need to lean on that a game or two during this final stretch, and certainly going to need to lean on that if they want a chance at winning a playoff series. So was it really just tired legs, or is this team still in a little bit of a slump? I think that's going to be really important to keep an eye out on.
Yeah, I'm not. Well, it shouldn't be tired legs today. That's for sure. Though, like, it is. I'm sure De'Aaron and Domas aren't exactly well rested, but I'm also, especially for De'Aaron, I'm very confident he's eager to get this second part of the season going. I think De'Aaron is legitimately as cool, calm, and collected as he portrays himself to be. But Matt, like, he wants this playoff streak to end.
Oh yeah,
like he's thinking about it. He knows it, and he may not sell it for us. But if this team clinches, like, he's going to have a moment of reflection where the figurative, 400 pounds is lifted off his back.
He made that perfectly clear too with his media session after the All-Star game. I thought he handled it as perfect as possible. The only player not to score, some people were maybe embarrassed by that, and he was just super nonchalant about it. And I bought it. Like, I believed it. I genuinely believe he didn't care. And one of the questions he was asked was like, now that the All-Star break is over, you get to this race. Like, what do you think? And he goes, this is done. This this All-Star weekend is over with. I'm focused only on making the playoffs. And he brought up the playoffs on his own in one of his answers, saying like, that's the goal. I'm looking forward to having that feeling. So I think he is 100% focused on that, as is this entire team. And we would have all liked to see all 4 of the Kings representatives perform better than they did at All-Star Weekend. And I have no idea if Mike Brown and the Kings coaching staff and training staff was telling them to take it easy or not. But it certainly looked like they went there to enjoy themselves, enjoy the recognition, but knew what the real goal was and what the intention was, and handle themselves accordingly. And that was consistent throughout the entire All-Star Weekend for all 4 guys. So this is what matters to them. This is essentially their playoffs, I think, start tonight.
Yeah, I think Fox can smell it. I think he can smell it, man. I think he's ready for this moment. There were times in the past in his Kings career where I didn't know if he'd be ready for this type of moment. Like, I didn't know if he would be up to the challenge of seizing the moment and going after this thing and finishing it off. I've seen this year that this De'Aaron Fox understands the moment, and he's ready to take care of business and bring this team, do his part, whether it's carry him or be a part of it. That's doesn't matter. He's ready to do his part to bring this team across the finish line. I think he's ready to go for this final 25.
Yeah, like, he finished the pre-All-Star game schedule with 4 straight 30-point games. The one game previous to that he didn't have 30, it was a blowout over Houston, and he didn't play all that much. And then the 2 games before that, he had 30 as well. So basically, he's got 6 out of his last 7 games. He's 30 or more. He doesn't need to be a 30-point scorer for this team to win. But what he does need to do is put pressure on the opposing team at all times. And that's something that I think he's learning. I asked him this morning, fourth quarter Fox is a big thing. Well, I don't know. If you look at the NBA season, you now basically just entered the fourth quarter of the NBA season. Can you be fourth quarter Fox for the last 25 games? Because that's what this team needs. Like, the schedule's tough. Like, the competition level is tough. He needs to play like he has in the last, 2 weeks, the rest of the season. That's who he's got to be. And it doesn't have to be 30 points, but it's got to be really good. He's got to be really, really good for this team to either hold on to the 3 or avoid being the 7. But that's what they need.
And I think to what Kenny's saying, when you look at Fox and you hear him talk about it, there is a cool and calm confidence. And I think that's what speaks the most volume to me is you ask him a question about this race, or you ask him a question about the other players that he's going up against, or the competition, or the strength of schedule. And there's this slight grin that he has, just this yeah, I'm ready. I think the look on the face that you see of a lot of superstars in their moment, in their element, whether it's Tatum or Dame, and how many times they just are in the moment and they hit a big shot and everybody else is going nuts around them. Like the classic Dame half court shot, right? Or near half court shot in the playoffs, when he's the only one not smiling and celebrating like he knew it. I think that's what I see when I see Fox right now. It's like, we're here, we're ready, it's go time, and no one's stopping me. And that's the vibe that I get from him.
In an effort to almost certainly piss off James Ham, I'm going to ask you. I want to ask you this question about, we talk about this team defensively and what we want to see from them over the course of the next 25 games. Defensively, James talks about how this last stretch of the season. Mike Brown even talked about it. Mike Brown probably talked about it with James. The intensity of these games is about the shift. And James, you referenced the Dallas game, the Dallas series, how they got a little taste of it in that Dallas series. And I'll ask you, Matt and James, what do you expect from this team defensively? Do you think that they can be anything more than what we've already seen for 50 some odd games?
If yes, it's slight, and I think that's not asking a lot, but to me, the numbers have started to come out about how good the Kings have been defensively in the fourth quarter, which I think should be something for them to defensively hang their hat on, right? They're like top 10 or 9th best defense in the fourth quarter or something like that. Keep that. Can you find a way to make that a half? Like, just find a way for a half of a game to be the 9th best defense in the second half of a game.
Or just don't be 26th in the first.
There you go. That's just
maybe drop that number down a little bit.
Exactly, 100%. Just find a way to add a tiny bit more on top of that. But you know who you are defensively. You know it's your deficiencies, and I think those are really going to come to light when the Kings actually get to the playoffs. But as it stands right now, they are good enough now to get there and handle the rest of this regular season. Focus on that. Then when you get to the playoffs, kind of reevaluate and see where you're at. James, I'm curious what you think about this, because to me, like, defensively, if you hold the line or make slight improvements, I think that's more than good enough to secure a top 6 seed.
Yeah, I'll say this. Like, first of all, like, it's not like during the All-Star break they could send someone and like put him on a rack and stretch him out. Like, the fact is, this team isn't long enough. They're not athletic enough to be great defensively. So
Michael Jordan get
so
taller
like,
thing.
Yeah,
hang from the chin up bar.
Like, let's hang him from the rack and let's like crank the wheel and make them longer.
Oh, the All-Star break came and these guys got longer lats now. It's crazy.
Exactly. So like that's a problem that this team has, and it's a problem that they should have addressed at the trade deadline. It's a problem that they will address during the offseason. It's something that Mike Brown talks about all the time. Like, look, there's only so much we can do with the limitations of the players. So we have to design the defense specifically to help the players that we have. But we can't design a defense for the players we don't have. That's it. And so I get it. And I'll say this, I think there's only one thing that really matters in the final 25 games on the defensive end. Can you be good enough to keep your man out of the key so Domas doesn't get in foul trouble? He leads the NBA at 204 personal fouls on the season. And we've seen it in the beginning of the season, but we also saw it here in the last 9 games. He fouled out of 3 of the last 9 games. He had 5 fouls in 2 other games. So 5 of the last 9 games, he's in foul trouble. And it's not because he's just like doing stupid things and like going full Jason Thompson and picking up 3 fouls in the first half.
Jason Thompson isn't bothering nobody.
They don't matter at all. You know what I mean? Like, why did you just grab a guy that was running on a fast break when you already knew you had 2 fouls? Like, why did you do that? But that's not what Domas does. What Domas does is he tries to help his teammates and he gets called. And so if you can be good enough just to keep the pressure off Domas, then you got a shot to not only be good defensively, but continue to be great offensively. Because if you take Domas off the floor, this team is not great offensively. And we've seen it recently. You see the dip in numbers. It's because he's not on the floor. I mean, he is the linchpin for this team. He's the one that's holding everything together on the offensive end. If you can't keep your guy off of him in the key, then you're going to have trouble.
Kales 916 in the chat brings up a good question, and I want to know what you guys think about this. He says, or he or she, not sure. He says, why do you think there is a drastic difference between the first and the fourth quarter defense?
Matt,
what
do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same way. I mean, in kind of a similar way, like we see fourth quarter De'Aaron Fox. I mean, everything kind of goes under a microscope at that point. And while I think it's where it might not be the best mindset to have, but when you know you have another, 36 minutes to make up for any mistakes that you make in the first quarter, in the fourth quarter, it's do or die time. And I think those are the moments, that is the part in the game or the point in the game that I think everybody lives for. I mean, it's winning time, and that just brings out the best in a lot of people. So I think that's a really simple way of putting it. I don't think the Sacramento Kings are trying to do anything specifically differently in the fourth quarter versus the other 3 quarters. I also think isolation basketball kind of plays into it too, because typically when you get into the fourth quarter, it gets a little more ISO heavy, and it's easier to defend isolation basketball. The Kings have an easier time defending isolation than they do pick and rolls and offenses with a lot of physicality and a lot of movement. So if you're going to some of the best players are going to go one-on-one against De'Aaron Fox or whoever it is. And De'Aaron's done a really good job in those moments so far this season. But that is typical. It's easier to play an overall defense, I think, when 4 of the guys are standing watching, because that's what the guys that they're defending are doing, while one guy goes on up against the other. And then you just basically have to box out and secure a rebound, which sometimes the Kings struggle to do with too. But those are the only explanations that I can come up with.
Yeah, a lot of that makes sense. I'll say this too. The Kings are really good offensively in the fourth quarter. Their half-court offense is actually really good. They're efficient in the fourth quarter, and the game slows down. When you're going back and forth, and like trying to push the tempo the whole game, you don't play great defense. It's just like, it's why so many people have like tried to slow this team down, and then they try to push it forward to try to hide some of their problems. When this team is at its best, they're really good offensively. They're efficient. And that means that you are putting the ball in the basket. You're getting back, you're setting up your offense. And I think that's where like the difference between this team and so many others that I've seen from the Kings is their ability to close out a fourth quarter offensively. Like, they're just really tough to defend.
What do you think results in more wins? Matt, I'll let you answer this one first. 18th defensive rating or 114 points? I'm dead serious. Which do you think results in more wins? They average 114 points the rest of the way, or their defensive rating of 18?
I think it's 114 points per game because, 1, we know that's what this team can do. And 2, I expect defenses to get more physical and to get tougher. And if Sacramento can continue to score at the rate that they're able to score at against defenses who are trying to pick up the intensity and basically show, you're going to have to work even harder than that to stop us, that gives me most confidence going into a playoff series, because I don't know if I could expect this team to maintain the 18th best NBA defensive efficiency and defensive rating in a 7-game playoff series against the teams that were expected for them to go up against. But offensively, if their identity can remain this offensive ability that even some of the best defenses and better defenses with a higher focus and more scouting reports and more stats and more numbers and everything, even they're still struggling to deal with, then I think the Kings have something.
I want both. I'm tired of, like, there's no excuse for being this bad defensively. Go out there and play defense. That's it. Go out there, have fun scoring offensively, and then go out and play defense. Like, that's the end of the conversation. Like, this team doesn't have an excuse to be this bad defensively. Do they have the length? Do they have the athleticism? Like, maybe not to be a top 5 defense, but to be a top 15? Like, that's energy, it's effort.
But is that going to happen this year? That's like, if that's what you wanted next year, I got you. Like, I'm with you. 25 games. We've got 50 some odd games in the book. 25 left. Do you think you can get that?
I'll say this. You might not be able to get your defensive rating for the entire season down to 18 or down to 15. You certainly can play that well the final 18 games, final 25 games of the season. So you can in the final 25 game stretch, you can be the 18th best defense in that stretch. And if not, then why did you do this whole thing? Because you're just going to get your butt kicked in the playoffs. If you don't play defense now, if you don't learn how to do it, you don't focus on it, you don't get better at it now, you're just going to get trounced. And it's going to be like, oh, that was fun. And then, 4-1.
Yeah, and you improve in the offseason. That's what you do.
I hope,
and
that's fine. I'll take that over a play-in loss.
Oh, yeah. I totally agree. But you understand what I'm saying.
No,
like,
I do.
This opportunity here, we keep talking about everybody ramping it up. Like, the Kings are part of everybody. Like, go out there and play better. Like, show that you're worthy of what's really the NBA season. The NBA second season that starts after tax day every year that the Kings never participate in.
I know what they better do. They better keep scoring.
Oh, yeah.
That's the most important thing. They better keep scoring. That's who they are this year.
at the same time, too, like if the offense and the 3-point shot gets going and the Kings have a stretch in a playoff series where they're scoring close to 130 a night, like they scored 135 or 6 straight games, they're an extremely difficult team to beat. Now, they're probably giving up 115 to 120 on average in those games. But if that's who they are, and that is what they are this season, given the personality or the personnel that they have, go all in on that. Just let that carry you as far as it's going to take you and build upon it.
Illistar S says Matt's helmet's blocking all the negativity. For those that aren't watching, Matt is absolutely wearing a helmet, and he has worn it through this entire conversation. He's worn a helmet, a white shirt, and a black tie. Please tell me that the shirt that you're wearing, please tell me it's short sleeves.
No.
Andy, he's not wearing a name tag either.
Oh,
come on.
I'm a fraud.
Can you assure me you're going to change before you go to work?
Why?
I don't know if everyone will find you as humorous as we do.
There are almost 18,000 people that I can say tonight.
Yes, I just don't. Unlike James.
No, he's a lost cause.
I just don't want Shannon to call the people at ABC and like, hey, is Matt okay? Did something happen on his trip to Houston?
ABC left me in Utah. They said no.
Hey, how quickly does the sky fall if the Kings lose tonight? Because it's not losing to Dame Lillard.
That's why I got the helmet.
Matt's going to leave that helmet on all night. Kings got to win tonight.
Hey, you know, I'm about as optimistic as anybody. They lose tonight, that'd just be disgusting. That'd be disgusting. You can't
pack up the rest of the 24 games.
You cannot lose tonight.
Kings fans, if they lose tonight, you're all welcome at my house. We'll have a little kumbaya circle, and I'll share with you the light, and you'll be fine.
I believe
you joke. That's what's going to be the Locked On Kings podcast tonight at the Golden One Center.
I'm a man of God. I didn't like the way he said that. That sounded like sip this Kool-Aid.
Well, yeah, Matt's giving strong cult leader vibes right now. It's very strong cult leader vibes.
Welcome to Utah.
You're gonna have to check in with Kevin John and find out. Did you leave Matt unattended at any point? Like, how much did you keep an eye on Matt during this trip?
Have you met Kevin Johns? It's very possible that he's the Thurl Bailey in this situation.
I will let you, I'll have you know, 2 to 3 blocks from the Vivint Arena is a museum of the history of the church. That's not a joke. It's
of course
right down the street from Vivint Arena, and they weren't selling tickets on Sunday. I was pissed.
Oh,
well, isn't there a Scientology building behind Golden One Center?
We don't worry about that.
Yeah, right next to it. Yeah,
we don't worry about that.
Yeah, I believe there is a massive building that says, Matt, I have the perfect place for you to send a job application to.
Oh God.
Some people will get that joke, not everybody.
Yes, we saw there was a building. There were noticeable buildings.
Not everybody will get that joke, but Matt, I've got the perfect place for you to send your resume to.